Matthew. Hi. I believe you have got a background of around 10 years in working with volunteers, so perhaps as well as talking about the role of social media, you can also tell us a little bit about your take and maybe bust some of the myths that might be around about volunteering.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, as I say, every single job that I've had, I've involved volunteers in some way or another, be that as part of the theatre industry, working as part of the council. I used to work at Apparatus Research UK. We used to have a lot of volunteers doing a lot of fundraising for us, but also we had something called a lay panel, which was a really interesting way to volunteer for a charity. And what that involves is, what would happen is somebody somewhere, a scientist, would come up with a fantastic idea for a novel way to solve some form of arthritis. Mm-hmm. And what the charity said was, okay, that sounds fantastic to you, but does it sound fantastic to everybody else? Does it make sense? Is it something that people actually want to comment on? Is it something that people actually want to have cured? Because a slight alteration in some form of bone mechanism or something like that might sound fantastic to the scientist. To the rest of the world, it might mean nothing. And it was really, as I say, it's a really interesting way to volunteer because you get to hear about so much exciting scientific stuff going on. And I'm sure there'll be places like that around here, around Rossendale, that may be available to have something like that. So that's a great way to volunteer. But in terms of sort of your question, yeah, you're right. In terms of sort of volunteering in general, it's an incredibly important thing to do, I think, in terms of, as Jennifer sort of say, raising the skills and also your sense of well-being. And you had Ben on talking earlier about the 5 ways to well-being. That's something that I think is incredibly important. I've put a couple of links on the live chat for people who are interested in having a look at that.
A bit more about that.
Yeah. And if you have a little look at those 5 ways to well-being and you marry that up with what you're doing as volunteering, you'll tend to find that the two coincide so well. And so if you are maybe struggling a little bit with your mental health side of things, if you're struggling a little bit with social isolation and you want to get out a little bit, volunteering is such a fantastic way to do it. In particular through the churches, for example, as we were talking a little earlier, that's a fantastic way to sort of help with your mental well-being and tend to be really, really good at that side of things. So volunteering across the board, I'm very much in favour of, and having worked with volunteers and been a volunteer myself, I can tell you it is a fantastic thing to start getting involved in.
I think it's fair to say there is no typical volunteer, is there? I mean, you are talking right through from, as Rachel said earlier, a 9-year-old, possibly younger, right through to however old, 90-odd-year-olds. If you've got the capacity and the interest, there is no typical, and there is no typical opportunity either, is there? Some people may think it is the things they've heard of, like citizens' advice, but then it's as diverse as helping out with this medical panel, giving you views on something, which could be a one-off, and again, as Jeanette referred to earlier, sometimes there are one-off opportunities and some of them are ongoing. I myself am a trustee of a couple of local charitable organisations. I think it's fair to say most local charities are always looking for volunteer trustees, a chance to use some of your skills to help the organisation with its governance. So that's another way that people, and in both those cases, it's kind of a couple of hours once every month or so. So again, it's not 2 hours.
Absolutely, and one of the things that you said there, and one of the things that I think is really important is something that you are interested in. Now, sometimes what will happen is people will see a volunteer opportunity or be given a volunteer opportunity, and it may be, say, gardening, for example. Now, you may have some aches and pains, and you may not feel that gardening is right for you, but they feel like because that's the volunteer opportunity they've been given, that is the thing that they have to do. And what I would say is, do try and make sure that you're volunteering in something that you enjoy, because what can happen is it can really put you off volunteering. If you're doing something that you're not enjoying anyway, regardless of whether it's as part of volunteering or part of your daily life, then you're not going to like it.
No.
So don't feel like you have to jump at the first thing that comes at you. Don't feel like you have to take the first flyer and off you go. Whilst I would say that as well, be open-minded, because sometimes you want to do things that will sort of expand your mind, broaden your horizons, that type of thing. So don't rubbish anything to begin with, but at the same time make sure it's something that you are enjoying, because you're not going to be doing the organisation any favours if you're not enjoying it, because you're not going to do it to the best of your abilities. When I very first started volunteering, I was 13 years old, and I had to do it for my Duke of Edinburgh award. And really thought long and hard about, well, what is it that I actually want to do? What is it going to benefit? And at the time, I was really interested in becoming a radio presenter. That's what I wanted to do for my career. As you can tell, I'm fabulous at this type of thing. So what I did is I applied to my local hospital radio, and as it happened, I was a little young, and they needed people who were 16 and over, because it was in a hospital. But they put me on something called a talking newspaper. And talking newspapers are for people who are blind or partially sighted. And what happens is the local newspaper will be read by a group of volunteers onto, at the time I started a cassette, but we're now onto USB sticks. Very much. That's the camera. But now we're onto, as I say, USB sticks, and that was a fantastic opportunity because you got to do so much. I got to do audio editing, I got to do presenting, I got to do doing tape-to-tape stuff, so I can do all the cutting up of cassettes and things like that. And I loved it because it was something that I was interested in. And the other thing that I would say as well is don't be afraid to try and make your own volunteering opportunity as well. For example, when I was at that organisation, another thing that I was interested in, I was very lucky to go on a bit of work experience. And I learned how to make websites and things like that. So I said to them, look, you know, I know you've got a website at the moment, but could I have a little tinker about with it? Can I have a little play around with it? And they loved the opportunity of doing that. So don't be afraid to go to organisations and challenge them and say, well, I think this is something that you need doing. Would you be interested in me doing it? I've got some skills. I'm not going to do, you know, a terrible job at it. I'm going to make sure that if it goes wrong, we can sort it all out. There's going to be no problems there. Would you be interested? And most organisations you'll find will snap your hand off that.
Yeah, they do, because especially if they're charitable organisations, they tend to have lack of resources in terms of finance anyway, so they're very reliant on the skills of volunteers. And I think equally, I would say, it's okay to try something and realise it's not for you, and if it isn't for you, that doesn't mean there isn't something else out there that is for you. So again, you know, do go back and try something else. Go back to the volunteer centre at CBS and see what other opportunities are out there.
Absolutely, because, you know, it was a heartbreaking thing when I left my talking newspaper. I'd been there for 10 years, I did it till I was 23. And the reason that I left is because I had to leave the area. I got a job outside of the area. And it's awful, but at the same time, you're not going to be doing anybody any favours if you're not enjoying it, or if you're not able to commit to it at about the time that you need to commit to. I mean, as we've sort of seen, there are one-off commitments, and that's a great way to dip your toe in and have a little trial, and, you know, put your expertise into place. And as you say, sort of trusteeship, you know, that requires a fair few skills, but it doesn't require too much of your time, and that's another great way to volunteer. So, you know, alongside being aware of the opportunities and aware of what organisations need, don't be afraid to try and make volunteering around what your schedule and your skills that you want to learn, because that's how you enjoy it.
And often that's how you get experience that can lead to paid work.
Absolutely.
Depending on if that's what you're looking for.
Well, I went to work into the radio industry after that, so it does work. There is a channel that you can go on, so don't be afraid to have a little go, and, you know, it is a fantastic experience. The social side of things is wonderful. Every stage of volunteering that I've done, whether I've been looking after volunteers or whether I've been a volunteer myself, I've met some fantastic people, and, you know, I have moved around the country a little bit, but I love the fact that everywhere within the Northwest I'll have a friend from somewhere who's done a bit of volunteering and I can chat to and you know, really sort of enjoy the company of, because we've had a shared experience and we've enjoyed a certain, you know, experience, as I say, and really enjoyed our time volunteering.
That's fantastic, thank you. I think that's a nice summation of some of the benefits of volunteering, and hearing it from somebody who's actually been through it themselves. Thanks very much.
Thank you.